It's been a few months since I first built my AI agency website, and with all the new tools coming out like the new Stitch with Google, I think it's time to give it a refresh. So come along with me. I'm going to redesign my entire website from scratch using the new Stitch with Google, plugging it into Claude Code via the MCP and rolling it out straight into production. The first thing you're going to want to do if you want to follow along with me is to come over to stitch.withgoogle.com. Stitch is basically a new tool that rather than designing everything from scratch, it allows you to actually build it and put together different components, as the name suggests, being Stitch, so that you can actually build the ideal aesthetic that you want. And some of the new tools that they've incorporated into this are things like the color palette, the typography guidelines. It's actually quite cool. So what I've gone and done is built in a prompt here saying I want to create a website for my AI agency, Next Layer AI. So we're going to start with designs first, and before you get started, you're actually going to want to put this onto Redesign. Redesign is going to actually build everything using Nano Banana, which is the image generation model. And this kind of helps, especially if you have more of a complex design that you're wanting to achieve. The image generation will match the screenshots that I'm including as a reference and generate that as an image rather than being restricted to what's being built in HTML, which can be quite restrictive. So make sure you're using the redesign section here. I've included a few screenshots, as you can see here, of some reference sites that I found that I quite like the look of. So we've prompted it to start with designs first, and this is just going to build the images using the Nano Banana Pro. There's a few sites that I've given it examples of. So the Playmaker site above for its floating starry background, the circuit board style with the pulsing design, a WebStack site typography style, and an Ampli process and design, as well as the audit approach from Seller.ai. So there's a few different concepts that I like. We're not going to be copying these and duplicating other people's websites, but we're using these as inspiration for our own design and our own branding. This is the website that I've currently got, and as you can see, it's pretty obvious that it was generated by AI for the most part. I did spend some time into actually building this, but I think now that I'm starting to get some views to the website, it's important to have a bit more of a polished and professional look. So I'm going to be rebuilding this site and redeploying something completely new to give myself a bit more of a different dynamic and a different appearance to people that are visiting the site. So to give you an idea of some of the examples that I've given it, the Playmaker style, I like here that they've got their kind of starry background. It's almost like you're sort of under the ocean and there's light streaming through, kind of like a water sort of setting, which I quite like. I also like the circuit board approach that they've got here. So that design I've included as part of mine. Typography, I just really like the look of how the typography sits and how the text actually holds on the page. I think it looks really good. And then the Ampli design as well. I quite like the design overall of this website, and there's a few different elements, particularly the website design process element that I would like to incorporate, how they've kind of got the step 1, the step 2, and sort of the architecture of the process of working with them from start to finish. I quite like the look of that, so I've decided to incorporate that. So there are all the elements I've included. Let's go ahead and hit generate. You can see all the elements that I've included here and all of the screenshots of the different sites that I like. So what it's currently doing now is it's thinking about how it can incorporate all of these different designs and put them into a singular site. Okay, now it's come up with a few designs which I actually quite like. Now keep in mind, it's just the design that we're looking at here. We don't need to worry about colors or branding or content or anything like that. We just want it to create the actual design itself first, which I think it's done a pretty good job of. It is suggesting to me, as you can see here, to add a services section. So it's obviously detected that as part of the site, there is kind of the services element to it, but I haven't included any elements for the services. So I'm just going to go with the prompt that it's given me here and see what it generates. Now it's actually generated this services grid, which I don't mind the look of now, but I think it needs some further tweaking. I've included my logos and my color palette here as well. So you can actually see that I want it to now start incorporating some of my branding into the design. So we're going to go ahead and ask it to do that and see what it comes up with. So it's given me a few different things to work with here. I'm going to ask it to incorporate the typography from this site, which I quite like the look of, into the design and the layout of this site here as well. It's got the light kind of coming through the background on the top as well. So I quite like that. I'm going to ask it to combine both of those design elements together. Cool, so it's given me some pretty good bare bones. I think the branding and the typography definitely needs to be tightened up, but I think we've got enough to work with in terms of the sections now, and it understands what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and tell Gemini to actually combine all of these. So I'll just say, I'm going to use all of the elements that I've highlighted here to create me a website that I can actually use to click around. I want you to incorporate some of the branding that we have in the screenshot image that I've also selected, but I want you to actually build this now into a working website. More importantly, we're going to want to change the model here to 3.1 Pro, and I'm going to go ahead and hit generate now. Okay, I think it's done a pretty good job. It's got a decent outline, but I think it's too technology focused. I want it to be more approachable for people that are visiting my website that have no idea about how AI agents work. So I want to do a couple of different things. I'm going to instruct the AI. Looks good. Can you add the handle real calls with AI voice agents section to the top? I want the site to feel more approachable and more accessible to people who may not understand technology or AI as well. The reach out to us section in the screenshot, the second one that I've just highlighted, is a good example of the form that I would like to put at the bottom. Make sure to include our office location in Sydney, Australia, as well as the links for all of the social networks. I quite like that. I can redirect people to check out LinkedIn and YouTube and Instagram, and then replace the core neural frameworks and the neural construction section. Actually, scratch that. Just replace the core neural frameworks with the our services image that I've highlighted. You'll see there. I'm also not happy with some of the content, particularly in this neural construction section. So I've brought over a piece of my own website that I've screenshotted, and I want it to actually introduce the problem, which is more than 40% of calls to small businesses go unanswered. I also don't mind this section here, the done for you voice agents. I think that conveys a little bit more of a helping hand type feel rather than this, which is very enterprise focused, and it might be intimidating to people that I am working with. So I've just instructed it to switch back to that design and hopefully incorporate some of those elements to make it more approachable and more welcoming to potential customers. It's looking pretty good. I've just noticed it's actually taken the entire image from the first reference image that I gave it. So I'm just going to prompt that out to get rid of the form that's inside the form, and then I'll check back in here. It's looking pretty good. I think I've got a pretty good base to work off here. So we're going to be taking this out now into Claude Code and looking at some designs of actual widgets on the web so that we can pull those in and incorporate those into the design and refine a bit more of the elements that are within here. So to export, you're going to want to click on the finalized web page that you like. You'll then see the export button up here, which is going to bring up a few different options where you can export. We're going to go with the zip just because it's easiest. I'm going to be using Claude Code in Antigravity. So click on zip and hit export, and I'll show you over in Antigravity how we can open that up. We're going to open up the folder that you just downloaded from Stitch and open it up inside Antigravity. Now that we're inside Antigravity, you can see that we've got this Stitch new site up here. I'm going to be now going into extensions where I'll be adding in Claude Code. Now I've already got this, but if you don't have this, you can follow along. Go to Antigravity, download the IDE for your computer. Click into the extensions tab here where you can authenticate your Claude Code into the Antigravity. And once you've done that, there's a few different ways that you can access it. I just like to double click to open a new terminal, and you'll see the Claude icon at the top right here, where you can click that to open. And you've now got a fresh Claude Code session open and ready to chat to get it to make some design changes. Now you're going to want to give it an initial prompt. So I'm going to say, I've just opened you up into a website where I've built that on Stitch. I want you to help me with transforming it into a really good looking UX focused website that I can use for my AI agency. I want you to install anything that you need to actually get this up and running and built, and then open it up for me into a local host once you've done all of that. So we're going to go ahead and send that off. Claude is now going to work on building this out into a local host, which basically it just means it's going to be recreating it on our machine rather than doing it in the cloud-based Stitch platform. And by doing that, we're then able to make some more refined changes on what the actual design elements and widgets should look like. So now you can see it's given itself a to-do list. It's going to ask me for some permissions. It's going to set up the project using Vite for a fast dev server, which means we're going to be able to actually view the project. It's going to add all the micro interactions, the hover states, the clicking and floating and hovering different elements that we would want to see rather than just a static flat image that we already have. So I'm going to go ahead and let this build out, and I'll come back once it's finished. Okay, now it's put all this together into a local host, which I think it looks quite good. The background is a little bit too subtle for my liking. I like the typing kind of effect that it's got here, and it's actually changed some of the text, which I quite like. Never miss another call. It's very value oriented rather than what I had before, which was more product focused. So AI voice agents that sound human, work 24/7 and convert callers into customers. I really like that, and I did not tell it to do that at all. A few changes need to be done up here. I think the bar needs to be a little bit bigger and a little bit more pronounced. I like this glowing floating emblem here. Like I said, the background I think needs a little bit more work. I'd like to incorporate some more of that light streaming through here and maybe some more stars in the background as well. Okay, I need to fix up on that animation, but I quite like that it actually scrolls and suggests that there's revenue being recovered, 24/7 availability, some statistics here around uptime, a quote from a customer here, and then obviously the value proposition or the problem that we're trying to solve for businesses. I like the Our Services tab. I'd obviously make some changes around what's most popular, and all of the Get Started buttons, I assume, will link to the call here. Our email, which is quite good. I think there's some work, but it's a pretty good base to start from. There'll be some changes that I'll be making to the site, but I quite like the overall design and how it started. So I've been using 21st.dev to actually find different widgets that I like. So this is a widget that I've found, which is the How Can I Help You section. Now I quite like that, and I would say we might actually change this 5 steps to launch format into the How I Can Help You vertical tabs. So it'll kind of scroll through each of the different stages whilst highlighting the different steps of the process that we go through. I also found this bento card, which I'm not sure where I'm going to put it, but I quite like the look of it, how it suggests that there's a workspace or a platform here, and then giving it kind of an overview or a dashboard of what the actual dashboard is. So high performance analytics. I might see if I can incorporate this somehow. And much the same for this, I just like the design. This is the hero section of the website, which if I compare that to what we've got already, could probably use some work and maybe put something a little bit more interesting here, maybe a little bit of a platform here with revenue recovered and number of calls handled or something like that. So I'll have a play around with it and I'll see how we go. I'll come back to you once I've incorporated some more of these widgets into the design. Okay, I'm just going to give it a few changes to make while I figure out how I'm going to be using those other 2 elements. So what I've said here is that it's a good start, but it needs changes. Can you add a light filtering background with the attached Playmaker site screenshot? So I've included a screenshot of that site. So I want the stars to be a little bit more visible with a little bit more motion. And then it says here also, I'd like you to change the 5 steps to launch into vertical tabs that periodically scroll. And here's the code for that. So I've actually gone and got the code from this particular part of the site here, copy code, and that will allow you now to bring it across into Claude. Okay, after some tweaking, I'm going to show you what the end result looks like. I might make some further changes from here, but I think we're 99% of the way there. So I got some refinements done to the actual layout. I saw the Fathom voice recording website, this tool that you can use to record your meetings, and I really liked how the text was arranged on that header. So I incorporated some of that appearance into my homepage, and this is kind of the above the fold. So when you first land, this is what you're going to see on the website. Still got the AI voice agents. I like that it's done some multicolored stars, and then there's a bit more of a visual representation here of the value that the AI agents will be bringing to the business. Incoming calls going in, and then you can see lead qualified, appointment booked, revenue generated. I think that's quite a cool visual representation of the value that my agency will bring. As we scroll further down, there have been some elements that have changed slightly. I quite like this 40% of calls lost. I think I might come up with something that's a little bit more compelling for this section, but for now I think it's good to go. I also made some changes to the services section. So we moved the most popular over to the inbound calls because that's the thing that I get the most questions on. Going down to the 5 steps to launch. It's a little bit boring here, I think, but I'll make some minor changes to it. The important part is it was the vertical menu that I wanted, and if we just check here, it automatically ticks over to each of the 5 steps to launch, which I think is quite cool. This was a visual representation I quite liked, just showing people the connection to the different tools that they might use on a day-to-day and suggesting that the agent's going to be connected to those same tools as well. A review that we got most recently from one of our accounting clients, and then a connect form so people can get in touch with us. So that's pretty much the build. I'm going to go ahead and add some more links and that kind of thing, but for now I'm just going to show you how to actually launch it. It's actually quite simple. The best way to do this is probably going to be through Vercel, pushing via GitHub, and then Vercel can host your actual site and hold the backend infrastructure to the front end that we've now built on our local host. So I'm just going to say to Claude, can you please help us with launching the site? I want to push it live through Vercel, and I can upload that to GitHub if you like, but let me know what you need connected to actually get this launched. And as you can see, after asking it, it will actually give me all of the things that I need to do. And that's the best thing about doing this with Claude. If you've never done this before, it will actually give you step-by-step instructions on how to do it. I'm going to ask Claude and see if I can get it to do these tasks. Can you connect to GitHub via an MCP or some other way so that you can do all these steps for me? I want you to be able to push to GitHub. I already have a repository. And I want you to then go ahead and deploy that on Vercel as well. So I'm just going ahead to GitHub and creating a new repository so that I can tell Claude where to send the new site. I want it to live in its own repository for now, and I'll make changes to it and refine everything just before I launch, and I can swap it over with my new site. So I'm just going to go ahead and call this next layer website 2026. Now we can leave everything else. Claude will change all of these. It has to be public, and let's hit create. I can grab this link here and I can take it back to Claude and say that's the repository that I want you to publish it, and then just use the files you recommend. And it's going to go ahead and publish everything for me. So as you can see, I didn't write a line of code. That was all designed completely using Stitch, refined with Claude Code, and now we're deploying it through Vercel and GitHub as well. If you haven't used Vercel before, it's basically an infrastructure that allows you to upload the back end of the website effectively. So what we've been building in Stitch and with Claude Code is the front end, it's the appearance, but it needs something to connect to in the back end, and that's what Vercel does for us. So all you got to do is go ahead and create an account with Vercel and GitHub. It's so easy to link them together, and once you've done that, you'll be able to see all of your projects within here. And inside Vercel, I'm just going to click import on the website we just created in the GitHub repository. So I'm going to go ahead and fill all these in. I'll just leave them as blank for now, and I'll hit deploy. But it's as easy as that. And you can see within a matter of 20 minutes, you've gone from something you've built in Stitch, from screenshots and links from other websites, put your own spin on it, given your own personal brand, and you can now deploy it and create what I think is a pretty good looking website from just a little bit of effort. So I hope that was helpful for you. As I said, we can do it very easily without writing a line of code, and I hope you can follow along and build this website or a similar website for yourself if you're building it for your business or trying to roll it out for your clients. Hopefully this has shown you how easy it is. I hope that was helpful for you. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.